Hello, everyone. We are back again to continue the story of 1001 Nights. And today we are going to continue with that second night. We are on the second night. Shahrazad was talking to the King Shahrayar, telling him about the Sheikh with the gazelle. And the Sheikh with the gazelle was telling his tale to the genie so he could win the blood of the merchant and therefore save his life. Uh, so night came, and Shahrazad and her sister and the king are sitting together. And Shahrazad continues her story of the Sheikh and the gazelle. When the Sheikh, continued Shahrazad, observed the tears of the calf, his heart sympathized with him, and he said to the herdsman, "Let this calf remain with the cattle." Meanwhile, the genie wondered at this strange story, and the owner of the gazelle thus proceeded. "O Lord of the kings of Jann, while this happened, my cousin, this gazelle, looked on and said, 'Slaughter this calf, for he is fat.' But I could not do it. So I ordered the herdsman to take him back, and he took him and went away. And as I was sitting on the following day, he came to me and said, 'O my master, I have to tell thee something that thou wilt be rejoiced to hear, and a reward is due to me for bringing good news.' I answered, 'Well?' And he said, 'O merchant, I have the calf. I took him to her. I have a daughter who learned enchantment in her youth from an old woman in our family. And yesterday, when thou gavest me the calf, I took him to her, and she looked at him and covered her face and wept, and then laughed and said, O my father, hath my condition become so degraded in thy opinion that thou bringest before me strange men?' 'Where,' said I, 'where are any strange men? And wherefore didst thou weep and laugh?' She answered, 'This calf that is with thee is the son of our master the merchant, and the wife of our master hath enchanted both him and his mother, and this was the reason of my laughter. But as to the reason of my weeping, it was on account of his mother, because his father has slaughtered her.' And I was excessively astonished at this, and scarcely was I certain that the light of morning had appeared when I hastened to inform thee. When I heard, O genie, the words of the herdsman, I went forth with him, intoxicated without wine, from the excessive joy and happiness that I received, and arrived at his house, where his daughter welcomed me and kissed my hand, and the calf came to me and fawned upon me. And I said to the herdsman's daughter, 'Is that true? Is that true which thou hast said respecting this calf?' She answered, 'Yes, O my master, he is verily thy son, and the vital spirit of thy heart.' 'O maiden,' said I, 'if thou wilt restore him, all the cattle and other property of mine that thy father hath under his care shall be thine.' Upon this she smiled and said, 'O my master, I have no desire for the property unless on two conditions. The first is that thou shalt marry me to him, and the second, that I shall enchant her who enchanted him, and so restrain her. Otherwise, I shall not be secure from her artifice.' On hearing, O genie, these her words, I said, 'And thou shalt have all the property that is under the care of thy father besides. And as to my cousin, even her blood shall be lawful to thee.' So when she heard this, she took a cup and filled it with water, and repeated a spell over it, and sprinkled with it the calf, saying to him, "If God created thee, a calf, remain in this form, and be not changed. But if thou be enchanted, return to thy original form, by permission of God, whose name be exalted." Upon which he shook and became a man. And I threw myself upon him and said, "I conjure thee by Allah that thou relate to me all that my cousin did to thee and to thy mother." So he related to me all that had happened to them both. And I said to him, "O my son, God hath given thee one to liberate thee and to avenge thee. And I married to him, O genie, the herdsman's daughter, after which she transformed my cousin into this gazelle. And as I happened to pass this way, I saw this merchant, and I asked him what had happened to him. And when he had informed me, I sat down to see the result. This is my story. The genie said, "This is a wonderful tale, and I give up to thee a third of my claim to his blood." The second sheikh, the owner of the 2 hounds, then advanced and said to the genie, "If I relate to thee the story of myself and these hounds, and thou find it to be in like manner wonderful, wilt thou remit to me also a third of thy claim to the blood of this merchant?" The genie answered, "Yes." Then said the sheikh, "Know, O Lord of the kings of the genies, that these 2 hounds are my brothers. My father died and left us 3,000 pieces of gold, and I opened a shop to sell and buy. But one of my brothers made a journey with a stock of merchandise and was absent from us for the space of a year with the caravans, after which he returned with a stock of merchandise and he returned destitute. I said to him, Did I not advise thee to abstain from traveling? But he wept and said, O my brother, God, to whom he ascribed all might and glory, decreed this event, and there is no longer any profit in these words. I have nothing left. So I took him up into the shop, and then went with him to the bath, and clad him in a costly suit of my own clothing, after which we sat down together to eat. And I said to him, O my brother, I will calculate the gain of my shop during the year and divide it, exclusive of the principal, between me and thee. Accordingly, I made the calculation and found my gain to amount to 2,000 pieces of gold. And I praised God, to whom be ascribed all might and glory, and rejoiced exceedingly, and divided the gain in 2 equal parts between myself and him. My other brother then set forth on a journey, and after a year returned in the like condition, and I did unto him as I had done to the former. After this, when we had lived together for some time, my brothers again wished to travel, and were desirous that I should accompany them. But I would not. What, said I, have ye gained in your travels that I should expect to gain? They importuned me, but I would not comply with their request. And we remained selling and buying in our shops a whole year. Still, however, they persevered in proposing that we should travel, and I still refused, until after the lapse of 6 entire years, when at last I consented and said to them, O my brothers, let us calculate what property we possess. We did so, and found it to be 6,000 pieces of gold. And I then said to them, we will bury half of it in the earth, that it may be of service to us if any misfortune befall us, in which case each of us shall take 1,000 pieces with which to traffic. Excellent is thy advice, said they. So I took the money and divided it into 2 equal portions, and buried 3,000 pieces of gold, and of the other half I gave to each of them 1,000 pieces. We then prepared merchandise and hired a ship and embarked our goods and proceeded on our voyage for the space of a whole month, at the expiration of which we arrived at a city where we sold our merchandise, and for every piece of gold we gained 10. And when we were about to set sail again, we found on the shore of the sea a maiden clad in tattered garments, who kissed my hand and said to me, O my master, art thou possessed of charity and kindness? If so, I will requite thee for them. I answered, Yes, I have those qualities, though thou requite me not. Then said she, O my master, accept me as thy wife and take me to thy country, for I give myself to thee. Act kindly towards me, for I am one who requires to be treated with kindness and charity, and who will requite thee for so doing. And let not my present condition at all deceive thee. When I heard these words, my heart was moved with tenderness towards her, in order to the accomplishment of a purpose of God, to whom he be ascribed all might and glory. And I took her and clothed her, and furnished for her a place in the ship in a handsome manner, and regarded her with kind and respectful attention. We then sailed and became most cordially attached to my wife, so that on her account I neglected the society of my brothers, who in consequence became jealous of me, and likewise envied my wealth and the abundance of my merchandise, casting the eyes of covetousness upon the whole of my property. They therefore consulted together to kill me and take my wealth, saying, Let us kill our brother, and all the property shall be ours. And the devil made these actions to seem fair in their eyes. So they came to me while I was sleeping by the side of my wife, and took both of us up and threw us into the sea. But as soon as my wife awoke, she shook herself and became transformed into a woman genie, or genie. She immediately bore me away and placed me upon an island, and for a while disappeared. In the morning, however, she returned and said to me, I am thy wife, who carried thee and rescued thee from death, by permission of God, whose name be exalted. Know that I am a genie. I saw thee, and my heart loved thee for the sake of God. For I am a believer in God and his apostle. God bless and save him. I came to thee in the condition in which thou sawest me, and thou didst marry me, and see, I have rescued thee from drowning. But I am incensed against thy brothers, and I must kill them. When I heard her tale, I was astonished, and thanked her for what she had done. But, said I, as to the destruction of my brother, it is not what I desire. I then related to her all that had happened between myself and them from first to last. And when she had heard it, she said, I will this next night fly to them and sink their ship and destroy them. But I said, I conjure thee by Allah that thou do it not. For the author of the proverb saith, O thou benefactor of him who hath done evil, the action that he hath done is sufficient for him. Besides, they are at all events my brothers. She still, however, said, they must be killed. And I continued to propitiate her towards them. And at last she lifted me up and soared through the air and placed me on the roof of my house. Having opened the doors, I dug up what I had hidden in the earth, and after I had saluted my neighbors and bought merchandise, I opened my shop. And in the following night, when I entered my house, I found these 2 dogs tied up in it. And as soon as they saw me, they came to me and wept and clung to me. But I knew not what had happened until immediately my wife appeared before me and said, these are your brothers. And who, said I, hath done this unto them? She answered, I sent to my sister, and she did it. And they shall not be restored until after the lapse of 10 years. And I was now on my way to her that she might restore them, as they have been in this state 10 years, when I saw this man, and being informed of what had befallen him, I determined not to quit the place until I should have seen what would have happened between thee and him. This is my story. Verily, said the genie, it is a wonderful tale, and I give up to thee 1/3 of the claim that I had to his blood on account of his offense. Upon this, the 3rd sheikh, the owner of the mule, said to the genie, As to me, break not my heart if I relate to thee nothing more than this. The story of the 3rd sheikh and the mule. The mule that thou seest was my wife. She became enamored of a black servant, and when I discovered her with him, she took a mug of water, and having uttered a spell over it, sprinkled me, transformed me into a dog. In this state, I ran to the shop of the butcher, whose daughter saw me, and being skilled in enchantment, restored me to my original form, and instructed me to enchant my wife in the manner thou beholdest. And now I hope that thou wilt remit to me also 1/3 of the merchant offense. Divinely was he gifted who said, so good, even on an unworthy soil, for it will not be lost forever wherever it is sown. When the sheikh had thus finished his story, the genie shook with delight and remitted the remaining 1/3 of his claim to the merchant's blood. The merchant, who was saved, then approached the sheikhs and thanked them, and they congratulated him on his safety, and each went his way. But this, said Shahrazad, is not more wonderful than the story of the fisherman. The king asked her, and what is the story of the fisherman? And as she was going to relate the story of the fisherman, Shahrazad perceived the light of morning, and discontinued the recitation with which she had been allowed thus far to proceed. Her sister said to her, How excellent is thy story! How pretty! How pleasant and how sweet! But she answered, What is this in comparison with that which I will relate to thee in the next night, if I live, and the king spare me? And the king said, By Allah, I will not kill her until I hear the remainder of her story. Thus They pleasantly passed the night until the morning, when the king went forth to his hall of judgment, and the vizier went thither with the grave clothes under his arm. And the king gave judgment, and invested, and displaced, until the close of the day, without informing the vizier of that which had happened. And the minister was greatly astonished. The court was then dissolved, and the king returned to the privacy of his palace. Thus we end our story for tonight, and tomorrow we will call upon the story of the fisherman and the sea, and what he got from the sea. Quite an interesting story too. So I'll see you tomorrow. Until then, be safe, be healthy, stay home if you can, and I hope so. And I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.